Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday, everybody.
Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Sabrina Bree, not Brianna. And my favorite girl, the radical one, Dionne, the midwife. Jackson, it's been so long since we've done this. I'm
Long time.
super excited to be here. Grace, we back.
We back. I'm extra excited because we're back very differently today. And it is making my heart smile to be back in such a way because it's all about you. That makes me happy. Anybody that knows me knows that I love it when I get to watch, especially my dearest friends win. And this is one of those winning moments. And I am honored to be here with you at the start of the show because since it's all about you, I couldn't let you just introduce everything by yourself.
Yes.
Because today we are celebrating a great, great victory. For those of you that do not know, that have not heard, listen, let me tell you all about it. And the room goes wild. It's a new book alert, y'all, and I'm happy, glad. I'm super duper proud. And the beautiful thing is to have been part of the process and the journey, and within the guise and the walls of the book in and of itself, you guys will actually hear from the rabbi, who you will have the pleasure of reading his introduction to what you are going to experience while you take this journey. And so I'm happy to be here as always and super excited about not just the success of the book, because whether or not it's going to be successful is kind of given. If we all just support you, you win it. But the life work that you will be able to do individually, independently, corporately, small group studies, family studies, Bible study. I mean, so many different things. But even for the secular world, this book is an introduction to health and wellness at its finest. And just for those of you, you may never have heard of my absolutely amazing friend. You have been utterly deprived. She is LCSW. She's worked really, 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 really hard at becoming the her that she is now, and she is a continuous work in progress. I am honored to call her my sister and my friend, and I want to introduce to some and present to others my sister friend, Sabrina J. Robertson, and her up and coming book, which is available right now. Like, you can literally click on the link that'll be provided and pre-order yours today. The Pain of My Inheritance, My Mother's Wounds. Did you hear that? Shh, Selah.
Yeah.
Let me say it again. The pain of my inheritance, my mother's wounds. Yeah, that's heavy to sit in, right? And I know, if I don't know anything else, because we have somewhat taken this journey together, done a lot of this work together, and have gone through mad healing processes together. And I assure you that if you have the courage to take this journey, not only will you leave better than you were before, but it may answer some questions that so many of us have without the proper hand to hold, without the proper community in place, without the necessary therapy and the enrichment of the Word of God as it relates to maturing as a woman, as a daughter, as a sister, but more importantly, as a mother, as your daughters will also have an inheritance of some sort. And what we're hoping to do is bridge the gap and stop handing out wounds and start handing out healing as we move forward. And so before I begin, I'll read this just as the preface. The premise is to offer a Christ-centered healing journey for both men and women who have found themselves physically strained and emotionally floundering as a result of their own unhealthy choices and decisions that are a result of inherited generational pain and dysfunction, pathologies inherited from the physical or emotional absence of their mother. The path of this work will consist of the following in a suggested 13-week guide. So this is not just a quick read. This is actually deep digging, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this 13-week guide, you'll experience identifying areas of wounding, attachment, emotional instabilities, self-injurious behavior, poor decision-making, failure to launch, failure to thrive, etc. In chapter 2 or week 2, access the cost to the individual physically, mentally, emotionally of sustaining and carrying these wounds, the consequences, side effects, and the end result. Explore what life might have been like if there was never a wound, an alternative narrative. Explore what life could be like now in absence of the wound, shifting the perspective. Identify the origin, the giver or the cause of the wound, and explore circumstances of the wounder at the time of injury.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dionne, we're giving them enough now.
That's it. So I'll stop right there.
But as you can see, it's a lot.
But even that was so much that even if we just talked about the first one or two,
yeah.
Listen, you'd have to be in it to win it. I think that was not only feeder statements, and you see I ran them all together on purpose because you got to figure it out. You got to be willing to do this work. But before we deep dive into, maybe we'll pick through one or two of the topics. But Sabrina, let me ask you before we start talking about the book itself, how did you arrive at the title of your book? And well, I'll wait. I'm gonna save that question. I'm gonna let you start with that.
Okay. So how did I arrive at the title? It's funny. Ever since I became a mom, I've been hyper vigilant about what I leave to my children. It has fueled my work ethic. It has fueled my desire to be a homeowner, to leave them an inheritance. I've always wanted to give what I didn't get. And it was, and I've had this come up for me several times. I was sitting with Black Girl Magic herself, Miss Simone Lane, the other day doing some inheritance work in the natural. And she had me sign here, sign here, sign here. And I was literally getting tired of signing like the things we go through to leave things for our children. And then it dawned on me, most of the time, especially in our community, that's not what we leave our children. We leave pain. We leave bills, like their inheritance. And so fueled by the reality of what my inheritance had been, coming face to face with that so that I could denounce it and leave my children something different is how I came to the title. And I will say that the title, when I came up with it, or when the Lord gave it to me, I accepted that it could very well be polarizing, even in my family. I realized that telling my story was not just telling my story, but that it was telling the story of my family. And it was a calculated risk that I'm willing to take.
Because sometimes you have to add up the costs. in order to, for real, reap the benefit of being healthy and well. And sometimes it makes people extremely, I won't say makes people uncomfortable, especially if that's not their ideal or opinion of what that looks like. And perhaps that's not their truth or reality. But unfortunately, healing for you sometimes becomes offensive for others. And I just want to say I'm extremely proud of you for doing the work in such a way that not just you will benefit, but it becomes an inheritance for many, that it will be gift giving and life giving to the masses. And I believe that this is a very untackled topic because it can be brutally painful when you just tell the truth, right?
Exactly.
And rain, shine, sleet, or snow, it is your individual truth to tell. So I want to tell you how proud I am of you for being willing to take the risk. It is extremely important. And for those of you that are just joining, let me just give you a quick flash again. This is my sister, my friend's book release, The Pain of My Inheritance, My Mother's Wounds, the first of many, I'm positive, of Miss Sabrina Robertson herself. I'm ecstatic. I'm probably equally as happy about the lives that you will have the ability to touch nationally, internationally, globally, for that matter, because if I don't know anything else, it is well put together. It is put together in such a way that it is fluid and flows in a healing, cathartic matter, because I know how she thinks and I know her process. So we talked about how you devised the title, and I think it's really key that you said, when I came up with, and then you caught yourself. When the Lord gave me the title, I realized it could be controversial. I think had we not had this part of the journey in walking through the process with strength and power through the word of God, what I think kind of like almost a children of Israel type deal, that what would have taken did take 40 years, we were able to speed the process up.
Exactly.
We were able to speed the process up so somebody doesn't have to go through the brutal pain of what I think we went through, because we were fumbling our way through it.
Exactly.
You don't have to fumble your way. You wrote the book, you got the title. Tell me what your greatest fear in releasing the book was, outside of the familial pain.
You know, I don't know that I have any fears about releasing the book. Well, I think one fear is that this book will be seen as one that's for women only. Because there's a woman on a cover, and generally when we speak to women and healing and all that stuff. After I put the book together, when it was still in manuscript form, so I devised the book based on my own healing process. Literally the step-by-step guide that is the workbook, or the step-by-step steps that I took to get to my place of healing. And so after I did that, it was as if God just started sending me wounded people to my therapy practice. I mean, wounded men, wounded women, wounded children. And I would identify like that's a mother's wound. Like that's the origin of that. And the book is like, I'm a heavy Jesus freak. So Jesus is all up and through the book. God is all up and through the book. Prayer is all up and through the book. And God gave me the courage to ask some of my clients, can I walk this process out with you? Like, I wrote this book and I want to try it on you. Like, I need test studies to be able to say that this works. And so I asked men, I asked women, I asked people of color, and I asked people of non-color. And so there's a sample group that literally walked through the 13 weeks.
That's so dope. The fact that she's a practicing LSCW says everything, and that she has access to real people with real trauma, with real sets of circumstances. And the case study is actual. It is not based on someone else's theories or ideologies. It is based on her real life experience, conversation, dialogue, and working process with the clients that God blessed her to have to complete this, so you don't have to fumble.
Yeah.
You were going to say
I'm
something.
extremely excited, and I'm glad you interrupted me because I was literally on the verge of crying,
Mhm.
that everyone who invested in the process, male and female, at the end of the 13 weeks had achieved significant healing.
Amen.
Significant healing. The other thing that I would like to, that I was most fearful of, is that people with other sources of wounding would see this as only effective for healing where there is a mother at the root. I was listening to someone talk earlier in the week, and they were mentioning healing from a wound, being wounded by men. Listen, this guy will walk you through healing, period. You can put anybody's name in there. You can identify any source. I don't care what it is, who it is. The work is, it's proven. It works. Healing is yours. And it's such a big deal. It's priceless. It's priceless. There's a couple of things that I wanted to say. You know, people wonder when we're not on the air, where are we? That's one. It's been a couple months since we've done a show. One, we're doing the work. Yeah. And I want to validate and normalize the work, because we all have it to do. We are all works in progress. It does not stop. You know, the old Church of God in Christ sing a song, every round goes higher and higher. It's the same with work, right? So there's always something that we are working on to do. And there's healing, and it's ours. It's our inheritance. Yeah. Healing is ours. And I just want everybody to have it. I encounter people and they'll be like, oh my God, you're so nice. You're so sweet. You're so loving. She wasn't always this. She wasn't. And for those of you that were there at the inception of High Tea, you remember she had mad trust issues.
For real, for real. No, seriously. Yeah, this is real. Like, yeah, we've been for real doing the work.
And you've been doing it right alongside of us. And you didn't even realize it. But this is the end result of doing the work.
Yeah. For people to tell me that I'm nice is confusing. I get completely thrown off. Excuse me? Were you talking to me? Oh, Jesus. That's so sweet.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And I remember, Sabrina, I remember when we started to kind of take note of the fact that we had both suffered serious mother wound injuries that were extremely similar. I think that's one of the things that I believe joined us so fitly, is being able to, and only because I'm a little your senior, just a little though.
Just a little bit.
That I was able to recognize in you some of the things that I battled until I got to the place where I recognized that these steps are significant. Really getting to the place where I figured out that unless I was willing to actually tackle those big, scary monsters, because they're scary monsters until they're not. Right? And they make you a scary monster until they don't. There were patterns and habits that you had, and that's in one of the chapters. Will you do me a favor? Will you talk about some of the pattern breaking things that have worked for you, and perhaps identify habits or patterns for some people that may not even recognize that they have them based on that inheritance?
Yes. So before I do that, I would love to just define what a mother wound is.
Sure.
Can I do that?
Absolutely. Cool.
All right. So mother wounds are traumas that pass from one generation to the next. These are wounds that the generations before us failed to heal. These wounds often consist of toxic and dysfunctional systems comprised of oppressive beliefs, ideas, perceptions, and choices.
Mhm.
Mine was the last one. Professionally sound. In my personal life, I did not make good choices. And it took me coming to the end of myself at the foot of the cross to realize I did not inherit the ability to make good sound choices in the natural.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what a mother wound is. And I wanted to say that because, one, I wanted to define what it was. And as Dionne talked about in the preface, mother wounds are the result of emotionally or physically absent moms. And this is not a book to throw moms under the bus, right? There's so many reasons for absence.
Mm-hmm.
Like working, I was an absent mother for a good many years of my daughter's life. I was present, but I wasn't there. I was present, but I wasn't engaged. I was working.
That's it. Listen, and my children were physically with me where I was working, and I wasn't present.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have it to give because I had spent forever attempting to overcome the fact that I had mother wounds and was not aware that they were mother wounds that I was operating from a place of, right? So sometimes for some people, it may be approval seeking. For others, it may be not just a workaholic, but excessive. It's another form of approval seeking. It's just a different form.
Yeah.
For others, is self-medicating. So there are numerous things that happen as a result of an absent parent. Usually we're dealing with abandonment and rejection issues. I mean, it's countless, right? It's countless.
It's countless.
You were going to say something. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to identify some of the ways that moms could be absent unintentionally. Studies show that children who were born sick and had to spend a significant amount of time in NICU, unable to bond, that skin to skin bonding for an extended period of time, that's an absence.
Mm-hmm.
Moms who may have not been present because of death, that's that's an absence. So it's not always malicious or intentional. Sometimes it is very much so circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
It can be an issue of capacity. People can't give us what they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say that. But to answer your question, or to speak to your question, in the book, one of the first things that people will come across is almost an assessment.
Mm-hmm.
For us to be able to identify our areas, because it could be more than one, of wounding, right? How do I know if I have a mother wound? There's a whole checklist, right?
Yep.
And so I'll just read to you a couple.
Okay.
And one of the first ones is, do you find it easier to shut down than to express yourself? Long for validation for others. Suffer from consistent inability to make secure attachments in intimate relationships. This is a big one. Currently have or have had an eating disorder. If you have or had a mother who wasn't acknowledged or validated for her sacrifices. If you have or had a jealous or resentful mother. If you have or had a mother who withheld love or loving words to prove a point or to manipulate you. If you have or had a mother who competed with you and sought to one-up you. You had or have a mom who competes with other women. If you have or had a mom who relied on you for emotional support when you were just a child. If you fear abandonment or rejection by your mother. Those are just a few.
I was gonna say, because the baby, this list.
Yeah. If you seldom feel good enough, if you find that you find yourself to be a people pleaser, you fear abandonment and rejection in your primary relationships. Like the list is significant.
It's super significant. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. But like you said earlier, Dionne, it's going to require the reader to take an honest look at themselves. And it hurts. It doesn't feel good.
No, it is painful. And just as a forewarning, I am really, 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 really pleased to be able to say that as Sabrina has been writing this stuff out, I've had the honor and the pleasure of physically walking this stuff out with my mother. And one of the blessings in that is she has been more than willing to deal with her mother wounds, with her inheritance. And if you do nothing else, if you don't hear anything else that we've said, you have to have the grace to forgive, living or gone. If it's a parent, if it's a sibling, whatever the case, you have to be willing to forgive in advance. It is a huge, huge deal. There is absolutely not a risk for re-injury. Just so you clear. And there is an ebb and flow that goes with this thing, that you have to be relentless and committed to staying in the process, or you will self-sabotage instantly.
Yes.
I mentioned the piece about my mother because we didn't get a restored relationship. We got a whole new one. And as I found out things about this work, and I was able to share it with my mother from my location, from how I was impacted, from how I was affected by her inheritance, and those things that impacted my life. She then was able and willing to do the work. You said a couple of things about the benefits of doing the work. I don't want you to tell them all, but I want you to talk about at least two of the points that you've watched me experience, and I know that you are experiencing even now.
So there is a significant freedom in letting go of those weights. So emotional health and wellness, I would say, is one of the biggest benefits. And I would say the second one is that you become free to have healthy relationships. Mother wounds, as we talked about, are generational pathologies. The biggest benefit is that the buck can stop with you. I don't know a bigger benefit. You don't have to pass it on. You don't. You don't. You don't. You don't.
At all.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't.
It's absolutely a decision. And I would even challenge those that are watching in saying that you will be the curse breaker in your family. Your children, your grandchildren will lead and live stronger and better lives as a result of this work that you're about to embark upon. Because if you're still watching, you got mother wounds. If you're still watching, and it may be a father, because they're very similar, but nobody talks about the pain of a mother. I have friends that I know for a fact your mother has you so damaged you can't make decisions, you can't handle confrontation, you can't pick a relationship with clarity, you got attachment disorder, like all kinds of stuff that you never really would have thought about doing the work of. But let me do it again for those of you that may have been joining us late. Bam! It is again Sabrina J. Robertson, the author of My Mother's Wounds, the pain of my inheritance, right? And so I'm excited about you guys having access to this. While it is not released yet, I just want to encourage you, Hunty, go ahead and pre-order, because as I'm just kind of grazing through the chapters, I'm almost scared to read it, because I don't feel like doing all that crying a whole bunch again. But I wouldn't dare not. I think to be able to see the finished work, to be able to see my sister smile the way that it is today. She doesn't quit me frequently now. She only does it periodically, and it only lasts for a couple of hours. She used to quit me for I don't know how long.
Extended periods of time. We'll just call it
like a little kid.
That's healing, though. And for many of us, you know, the shutdown used to be real. We shut down and wouldn't talk to people. My favorite line was, "You're dead to me."
Right.
That's a wound of abandonment and attachment. How do you gonna just kill people off? Dead. Right. And you had to say it like that. Dead. Right. I want to take a minute to thank everybody that has already purchased it. When the announcement went out, there were those of you who didn't even know what it was about, just based on the title. You ordered it, you pre-ordered it. I have people hitting me up wanting autographed copies. So they're not going through the website. They're sending money directly to me, buying 2 and 3 books at a time. Thank you. Thank you. And on behalf of the people that you're going to gift them to, thank you. If you're still listening and you're blessed to have either I've already done the work or you didn't, this wasn't your area. I can promise you, you know somebody, gift them with healing. We know women, we know, like Dionne said, I know people that are just chronically bitter. There is a root. Gift them with the book. Gift them healing.
Yeah.
Gift them healing.
Yeah. I want you to kind of go into the emotional debts of the inheritance and what that could potentially look like for somebody that has not started the debt cancellation process. That's what I think we'll coin it, the debt cancellation process, and tell them perhaps or give some ideas from a clinical perspective as to perhaps where they can begin.
Okay. So the premise or a lot of the work is centered around forgiving, right? And so our working definition of forgiving is releasing someone from an emotional debt they could never repay. So when I say emotional debt, what I mean is there are certain things that even though people apologize, they can't make restitution for. You can't get back time. You can't get back missed significant events. You graduate from high school one time. So if they weren't there, they weren't there. And looking at the pictures just isn't the same. If you needed a kidney and they didn't show up, listen, they just didn't show up. They can't go back and redo that. But their absence, the negative impact on you was for real. It was valid. And it was impactful. We don't negate that. However, no matter how hard they try, they could never pay you back for that. That is an emotional debt. So when we ask that you free them, release them, right? Grant them clemency.
Yes.
Wipe their debt clean. You do it for them and you do it for yourself. And the healing part of it is the for yourself part. Like they just a byproduct. They just happen to benefit. But the for yourself is because you release yourself from having the expectation that they will one day be able to. Right. So it's the difference. It's like a little kid sitting at the window with their coat on, waiting to be picked up by somebody who's deceased. They not coming.
Yeah. Ever.
No matter how long you stand there with that coat on, they're not coming because they can't. So what would it look like for you to take your coat off and leave the window? Free yourself to go do something else, to go live your life. That's what it is. Releasing them from an emotional debt they could never repay so that you can go and live.
So I'm gonna say this. You just reminded me of a story, and hopefully I'll share this, and somebody that's listening will remember. Probably in most cases, especially in Black and Brown communities, it would probably refer to your father as opposed to your mother. But I can remember vividly. I had this cute little purple coat, and it had a white furry hood around it.
Mhm.
And, in Richmond, I lived on the one way, right? So I always knew which direction my mother would be coming from. And so there was always an expectation that she'd be there at a specific time, because that's what she had told me. And I was standing at 4820 Burke Avenue in my grandmother's kitchen, and she was making cabbage and cornbread. I can smell it. And I had put my coat on, and I was sitting there. And after a while, my grandmother started fussing. Didi Sharice, that's what she'd call me, just above a whisper. Take that coat off and sit down and eat. My mama coming. And I mean, I sat there and I stared out the window for the longest. And then after a while, my grandmother got mad, right?
Mhm.
With her inheritance. She was being good and honoring. She got sick of looking at the back, because I'm sure it was hurting her. But as
Exactly.
a child, I didn't understand that she was frustrated because I was frustrated. And so she told me again, Didi Sharice, take that coat off and sit down and eat. I refused to eat because my mama is coming. And so to avoid her fussing at me, I went outside in the backyard, and I climbed up on the fence on the side of the garage. It was cold outside. I remember having my hood on, and I couldn't see as far down the street. And I remember the wind blowing and the tears that were flowing down my cheeks as I stood on that fence and waited for my mother until it was dark
Wow.
outside. And I could hear my grandmother in the front yard looking for me, but I was trying to hide because I didn't want her to be mad at me, because I just wanted my mother.
Mhm.
And that is probably one of the most vivid memories that I have, while there were many, many more. What I understand today is she could only give me what she
Yeah.
had.
Capacity.
She could only give me what she had. And I remember when the Lord revealed that to my heart. Sweetheart, do you not know that everything you need, you had? You just didn't get it from where you thought you needed it from. And
Mhm.
even though it didn't look the same, it's because you're built for something different, right?
Mhm.
So I just want to give somebody the strength to keep going
Mhm.
and to do this deep diving and deep digging, because today I absolutely get why I'm built the way I'm built.
Exactly.
I get
Exactly.
why I had to stand on that fence. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Exactly. And it gives you an appreciation. I think one of the outcomes is that if you do this, you will walk away with an understanding. Many of us can't get healed because we can't get past the why,
Yeah.
the why, the why, the why. And we've been so accustomed to surviving what we can't understand that we get stuck. If you do this work, it may even give you some insight into the other person's why that will melt your heart with compassion. I'll give you all a little piece of my story, which it's not much in the book because I wanted to respect my mom,
Yes.
right? But I'll say this: my maternal grandmother died at the age of 28 from leukemia. My mother was 11 years old.
That's it. Yeah.
And it took God, as I sat on an airplane headed to Dubai, to tell me that she couldn't give me what she didn't have because her mother died when she was only 11. So, how can somebody mother who had never been mothered,
Hmm.
right? And Dionne talks about like the substitute, the caregiver. Well, my mom was born in 47. So her caregiver, her substitute was born in 1920 in the segregated South, still picking cotton when her own child died and she was left with 3 babies. Her form of love was provision. So she got out there and she picked and she picked and she picked. And when she came home, she didn't have anything but wounded fingers and bleeding, open sores. That was her expression of love, pain. So here we are, generations down the line, born into wounds.
Absolutely.
Oh, but Jesus.
Ah, hallelujah. Glory to his name.
There's a 2-year-old little girl named Nyla
Yes.
Janelle,
Hallelujah.
who will never know
Yes.
the pain of her Yaya's inheritance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope. That's super duper hot. That is everything. That's a very big deal. We don't have a bunch of time left, but I think that it's really important to talk about this aspect and this element. And this is to veer a little bit away from the book with the book.
I hate you for making me cry.
I'm sorry. I love you very, very much. Our tears are absolutely a blessing to our hearts, and they help us to heal. I want you to share with those that'll have the courage to take this journey. I want you to speak to community and how important it is while going through this process, and how valuable or not it can or cannot be while going through this series, this study.
So community and accountability is extremely important. Many times when we get in situations that are painful and that are difficult, we abandon the process. And so accountability and community is going to be essential to help you stay the course and to support you in it. Yeah, it's pivotal. Like I don't know that you are going to be able to do this alone. You're not.
It's almost impossible.
You're not going to be able to.
And I'm inclined to say this. In doing this level of work, this type of work, have an expectation that you will potentially have a circle shift. Don't be blown away.
Think it not strange.
Think it's not strange.
As the Bible would say.
There are perspectives that commonplaces will not afford you to walk into from historical methods of thinking and practices. A lot of times when we suffer from mother wounds or paternal wounds, we deal with a bunch of codependent behavior and decision making in the process of getting to the place of healing, of getting to the place where we actually have what I call kaleidoscope moments. Those moments where that sand shifts and it never ever returns to that same perspective, that same idea or understanding. And so be open to different, even if it looks unfamiliar.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that, Dionne. I think that one of the biggest changes that I've found is that once you go through the process of doing the work of healing in this particular area, offenses will not land on you the same way. So like there's going to be a level of change if you allow the Holy Spirit to guide you through this process and to be a constant companion. Like this, you have to shift not only your thought process, but this will shift your heart posture so that offenses in the future, because they will come, like that's just a part of life, right? You won't carry them the same way. They won't land on you the same way because your capacity is going to shift. Your ability to love, your ability to heal, your ability to hold and sustain empathy is going to shift by way of this process. There are so many areas that these wounds show up that we're just not even aware of. For those of you that have been reluctant, or you know people that have been reluctant to do therapy, to commit, listen, this will catapult you. This will catapult you.
I can't believe the formula that you put together. And I guess, it's a trip because we've walked so much of this out together. To see how you arranged it. It is so powerful, and rhythmic. And it has, just at looking at even how the 13 weeks, the flow is amazing. And I think that is one of the bigger parts. I can even see a workbook number 2 for advanced healing, for even a different level. But this right here, listen, if you go through these steps and you're still sick, it's because the whole time you read, you were rolling your eyes and I'm not doing this, or you stopped midway.
Yeah. And you know what? And I would dare somebody to go 13 weeks. I mean, you might as well just don't. just don't. Listen, you can invest your time better doing something else.
Chewing bubble gum.
But I'm believing that if you take the step and do the work, that you'll be better. And I want to hear about it. Like I want to the letters, the emails, all of that stuff. I think, again, I said in the beginning, one of the biggest joys is to have secular people who are not believers go through the book and come out healed and wanting to know more about Jesus.
That part.
Wanting to know more about having a deeper relationship. So this book eliminates the excuses. And I know I wrote it, but I promise you I'm not selling you no wolf tickets. After this, if you're not healed, it's because you don't want to be. Right. And for many of us, that's the reality. Like, our wounds have been our security blanket.
They're our safe place.
There's our safe place. Our victimhood is where we get recognition. Is our identity is tied to it. So if you want a new identity, it's there.
All you gotta do is choose it. Listen,
choice is yours.
You say in about the 11th week, action trumps feelings.
Listen,
what you gonna do? You gonna say things?
Yes, I remember talking to Dionne, and let me say this: shout out to all the people who influenced the book, the workbook, who actually had a hands-on part in my own healing. So there was a part of my healing process where I was talking to Dionne about something, and I mentioned I was afraid. She do it afraid. Wait, no, because when I say I'm afraid, I'm supposed to get it passed from having to do it. No, ma'am, do it afraid was the response I got. So actions trump feelings. It doesn't matter if your feeling is afraid, if it's apprehension, if you don't feel like they deserve your forgiveness, it doesn't matter. Actions trump feelings.
And it takes courage and keeping in mind that fear is not innate. It's a learned behavior. We're not born fearful. We choose to fear.
Yep. That's why babies can swim.
Because they have no idea
they have no fear
that something could be scary.
Yeah. Or painful.
Instantly, as soon as you put them in the water.
Yep.
So for those that have trauma based on mother wounds, that you're terrified to cross the bridge. I don't know how I know that really happens. Or you struggle with hoarding. I know that that happens. Or you're dealing with obesity.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that happens. Or addiction. Yeah, because mother wounds cause
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I know that that happens. I want you to know that you're absolutely not alone. There are lots and lots and lots, or you are extremely promiscuous,
Yeah.
attention seeking.
Yeah.
We call it attention whore, where I come from.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are symptoms. But
Yeah.
when you begin to do the deep digging and do the work, that action trumps feelings thing, it becomes almost an alma mater. It becomes like an anthem or a mantra. You know, there is a phase where you get to a graduation like, whew, I got through that part. And
Yeah.
once you do the basics at the beginning and you just go ahead and do the work and allow yourself to feel the pain
Mm-hmm.
of the discomfort of getting well, because
Yeah.
it's painful.
Yeah.
Just
It,
go
yeah.
ahead.
And I was just gonna, well, as you were talking, I don't know why, but I just thought about individuals that keep picking the same person to date or to be in relationship with, and it's abusive. That's a wound, right? You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to do that. Or you can get to the core of why you're doing that
Mm-hmm.
to get a better understanding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm going to say this from a transparent place, and it should be encouragement for why you get the book. And you know, we always infamous for telling our business. Having been married thrice before the age of 30.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? And listen, having been married thrice, not twice, 3 times before the age of 30. After getting a divorce for the final time, I promised I would never put myself or my children in a situation where I was dating or dealing with someone from an unhealthy place.
Yeah.
And to go through the process, and people say to me often, Dionne, why are you single? Clearly, I wouldn't have to be, but I made a decision that until I knew I was well, because the question now became, I didn't have a problem getting a husband. I had a problem staying. I had a
Mm-hmm.
problem not sabotaging. I had a problem picking the wrong person. All three of them very different. For very different reasons, but it had nothing to do with love or commitment or a covenant. It was self-medicating with what looked like security for me, what
Mm-hmm.
filling a need, right? So there were so many things that went with that. And until I did this work, I don't even think I realized something was wrong with me. Right. And so grateful to God for this process.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very appreciative to know that now, almost 19 years later, I'm well. I don't have baggage. But
Mm-hmm.
today, I will never make the mistake of marrying someone that is not suitable for my purpose, that does not have my heart in mind. But that's because today I know what my heart has in mind. And it
Exactly.
is the very, very best for my life. It's what I deserve. And I remember not even being able to feel worthy of
Mm-hmm.
deserving anything. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Living from a place of
Cool.
rejection
Yeah.
and abandonment and the inheritance that was so heavy,
Yeah.
right? And learning how to overcome that through
Mm-hmm.
these actual steps. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And I again, this will probably be, it won't be my final plea, but it will be my final one for this hour. Give your kids the gift of seeing you healed. Give
Yes.
them the gift of seeing you whole from a genuine place. Take the mask off. We're at a point now where we don't have to pretend to feel good. We don't have to pretend to be healthy, to be okay. You don't have to suck it up anymore. You don't have to do any of that. You don't. Dionne mentioned community. I would love if a group of you got together and decided to do it together.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to do it by yourself, don't do it by yourself. You need some accountability partners. However you have to do it, just 13 weeks. That's not a long time when you consider how long you've been hurting.
Woo! Listen,
it's not long.
The cost to spend the next however long you have here on earth from a healthy place. Listen, life altering. I know for a fact that there are segments or legs of Declare Victory that I'm sure is going to snatch this book up. Certainly, Lisa Porter, who is
wrote the foreword.
Yes, who is the author of the foreword, and I believe soon to be Dr. Lisa Porter. Will certainly share it in Women Who Walk Out the Word on the Thursday night call. I know they're gonna instantly pick it up as a small group study, and I wouldn't be shocked even in the least bit if you'll be able to pick it up over there at the good old PFBC either. That being said, and again, I want to appeal to men.
Yes,
I know so many men.
That's a whole nother show. Men that have been wounded by their mothers.
Jesus. Who right now cannot have healthy, effective relationships because they had a overbearing mother, a broken mother, an alcoholic mother, a promiscuous mother, a mother
who's still functioning as the other woman.
Listen, there's so many components and compartments, I think, that we leave untouched and unscathed because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Listen, we're not just hurting people's feelings, we hurting people's future. We're hurting people's purpose. We're hurting people's freedom by not talking about the hard things that really make the difference. And I'm praying that we walk into a generation of young women and young men inheriting freedom, inheriting liberty, inheriting health and wellness and wholeness. What's the High Tea with Bree slogan? Say it, sissy.
Listen, helping you to live, to heal, to laugh, to love, all of those good things. Live. Live. I'm excited about your future. I want to hear all about it. If you do a small group, you better invite me.
Absolutely.
I want to come. I'm going to come.
Absolutely.
This was not about the money. If you guys see the cost of this book, you will know. She really want to help us heal, huh?
Right.
She ain't trying to make a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
She just wants you guys to be your best version of you.
Absolutely. And I will say prophetically, I believe that this book is for the nations. I believe that it's going to blow the minds of the readers. I believe that it's going to transform hearts and minds to a place of freedom and liberty you've never seen before. I pray and I prophesy that it not only be an international bestseller, but I believe that folks like Bishop Jakes and the Jamal Bryants and whosoever else will, the Matthew Stevensons of our today, of our culture, and even the up and coming leaders and teachers who recognize that there's a breach and there's a gap. I believe this is a gap filling book. I believe that this workbook is going to revolutionize understandings and perspectives and radically increase the richness of our children and our children's children and the generations after that. I know that it's so because I know your heart for seeing people healed, but more importantly, I know that this took courage for you to do. I am godly proud to call you my sister, to call you my friend. And I thank you for allowing me to be part of the process of walking this out and filling these pages with life-altering, breath-giving, freedom-rendering words for the nation, sis. I'll let you say the last word as we get ready to say good evening.
Listen, after that, I am charged up. And so I see a second and third edition coming. I would love to be able to include some of your testimonies. So that means some of y'all got to actually do the work.
Some work.
I'm looking forward to hearing all about your healing. I'm looking forward to seeing you in recovery. Yes. I'm looking forward to doing life with you. Thank you all for just this time, for tuning in, for sharing this. This is your girl, Sabrina Bree, not Brianna, on behalf of myself and the radical one. We love you guys, and we will see you soon. Bye,
See you
guys.
soon, guys. Bye. Don't forget to pre-order.
August 6th.